I'm gonna tell you why shadow work is the easiest way to really, really love yourself. And when I say love yourself, like unconditionally love yourself, when you own your shadow, you fully accept all the parts of you, right? Because shadow are the unconscious parts of you that are running the show when you're not aware, right? Because if you haven't made these parts of you conscious, they're going to be running the show. They're going to be leaking out in different scenarios, and you judge yourself, you shame yourself, and you're stuck in a loop of judging and shaming and self-criticizing. I'm going to use an example, perfectionism. We all know what that is. It's like when you have a need to do things perfectly. You just have this need, like they always have to be perfect, right? And you're so hard on yourself, you criticize yourself when they don't turn out perfect. When you decide to examine perfectionism, you realize that it stems from the feeling of not being enough. And I'll explain. The best way to do this work is to actually give the shadow of perfectionism a mic, give it a microphone. And by give it a microphone, I mean like you sit still and then you ask perfectionism, like, what are you trying to achieve? And when you do that, you realize that perfectionism is really trying to help you to go back to yourself. So when you ask for perfectionism, for example, like, what are you trying to teach me? You realize that it's rooted in the feeling of I'm not good enough. So therefore I need to always do things perfectly, right? So to project that I'm good, right? So because there's lack of that feeling good, of feeling that you're enough internally. So then the only way then you can get to feel good enough is to project that. And the only way you can project that is by doing things perfectly. You execute a project perfectly, you work out perfectly, like you want to be perfect in all the things that you do because you're searching for that feeling of being good enough, and that's what you're searching for. When you give perfectionism a microphone, that's what you realize, because you allow it to exist instead of like always shoving it aside, right? Instead of always leaving it unconscious and not paying attention to it. Because if you don't pay attention to it, if you don't give it attention and give it a microphone, it's going to be running the show, and you will never realize why you're always striving for perfectionism. So when you sit still and you realize that it stems from the feeling of not being good enough, then what you want to do is that feeling of not being good enough, validate that. Actually say the words that I'm not good enough. Say them. Say that I'm not good enough. Say them over and over. And in that way, you're giving that part of you a voice, right? For the first time, you're voicing it. You're voicing the things that are like unconscious, right? You don't realize that's what's happening. But when you voice it, it means that you finally realize that this is what's happening, and you voice it. And then that part of you that says I'm not good enough, then you hold it, you sit still with it, and you give it love. You fully embrace it in love. And this can happen like with EFT tapping, or it can happen in a meditation, right? There's so many resources out there, right? And you can even create your own like EFT tapping using ChatGPT, right? So validate that feeling of I'm not good enough. Say it, I'm not good enough. And then once you say it and you hold it in love, right? Whether it's like you're sitting still and then generating love from your heart and holding it in that space of love, right? Then you've given it a voice, and it stops holding power over you. Because it's like a toddler, right? When they're trying to get your attention, if you ignore them, they're going to scream. They'll do anything to get your attention. It's the same thing with the shadow. The more you ignore it, the more it's going to try different ways to get your attention. Some of the ways that it might want to get your attention is by you criticizing other people for not being perfect. Because if you don't own it, you're going to project it to other people. So when you see that other people are not being perfect, you're going to project that and judge them for that, right? But when you dig deeper and realize that it stems from that root of not feeling good enough, and then you validate that and then you shower it with love, it stops being loud. It stops holding power over you. And so you've loved that part of you unconditionally, internally. Like, you don't need any external thing. You don't need to do an external thing to give yourself that feeling of feeling good enough, right? You do the internal work of feeling good enough, like of saying I'm not good enough, and then loving that part of you. And by doing that, you've integrated the part of you that doesn't feel good enough, right? That's what integration means. It means like you're taking the parts of you that I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy. You're loving them and integrating them. You don't want to shove them aside, you want to integrate them. And that's what shadow work is about. Then you realize, like, if you're taking all these parts of you and loving them and integrating them, you become a whole person, right? There's no need to be perfect anymore. There's no need to do anything. You're loving the parts of you that you always want to shove aside, you always want to repress. You're loving them fully. And that is one way to fully love yourself unconditionally. And when you do that, they stop running the show in the background, because as long as you don't do it, they're always going to be running the show, even when you don't realize it. Because I think a lot of us don't realize that our shadows are always running the show until you start doing the inner work. Then you realize, like, I didn't show up as the best version of me. I didn't show up the way that I wanted to show up with that person. And the only way why I didn't show up as the best version is because the shadow was running the show. The best way to stop the shadow from running the show is integrating it by fully loving these parts of you, because they're you. You would never get rid of them. But when you love them and when you embrace them, they stop being loud. They take the back seat and you take the front seat, because you're the mother, right? And they're children, right? And they stop being loud. They stop screaming because you've shown them love.